AI seems to be the future of all industries, but is it really going to revolutionize music? Will it allow movie soundtracks to be created in a matter of minutes? And most importantly, what does this mean for the value of making music? You can be relieved knowing that you cannot press a button and spit out a contemporary classical composition at this point in time. But there is so much you can accomplish with AI. As a composer and music theorist with a doctorate, my work centers around contemporary classical music. This is a field that is all about breaking new ground and exploring the limits of sound. That's why I was fascinated to see what AI can do. Could this technology revolutionize my workflow and become the ultimate music making tool? After exploring how best to use AI for about 2 years, I'm making this video to showcase my findings so you won't have any of the headaches and focus on making breakthroughs. I've discovered AI's clear strengths and its very frustrating weaknesses. This video is all about sharing what actually works and what doesn't when it comes to composing with AI. First, I'll show where text-based AI falls short, the sorts of things you want to avoid. Then we'll look at the ways it can support your creative process, especially when used with intention. And finally, I'll take you inside a piece I am currently composing for a commission and show exactly how I use AI as part of my workflow. When I first started exploring AI, my first instinct was to see what it could do to help me come up with melodies and chord progressions. I quickly got frustrated with the soup of letters and numbers it was feeding back to me. It took me a while to realize that text-based AIs, like ChatGPT and Gemini, learn from what they see commonly next to each other. They were never taught advanced harmony in college, and every quality analysis has musical examples that show the notes on the staff. It's not their fault that I had unrealistic expectations. No text-based AI understands what the key of A-flat is. They might know that an A-flat chord is made up of A-flat, C, and E-flat, but they do not understand how chord progressions work. Here is an example of what I mean. I asked ChatGPT to generate a chord progression in A-flat major. Here's what it gave me. 1 major 9, 6 half diminished 7, 2 minor 11, 1 major 7 sharp 11, 5 7 sus 4, 4 major 9, flat 7 7 flat 9, and finally 1 major 9? At first glance, this might look colorful, but harmonically, there are several problems. First, the 6th chord is written as a half diminished chord. This is a chord quality reserved for the 2 chord in minor and the 7 chord in major, but never the 6th chord. Second, the progression moves from 2 to 1 before going to 5. In traditional harmony, and even more in jazz, 2 usually leads to 5, which then resolves to 1. Skipping that expected motion weakens the function. This is more than a subversion of expectations, it just sounds like the progression is wandering without direction. Third, the 5 chord goes to 4, which is more characteristic of the blues, but that's not the harmonic language being used here. This is in the style of mid-century jazz. If you want to make that motion work, you typically need a modulation that reframes 4 as something that would make sense in the new key. And finally, the cadence, 4 flat 7 1, feels structurally off. Without a clear progression through the circle of fifths or a stronger dominant function, it lacks clarity and pull. Now, could I still use this? Yes, especially as a starting point if I were stuck. But keep in mind, reshaping something like this into a functional progression takes a solid understanding of harmony. In many cases, it's actually easier to write something correct from the start than to fix what AI gives you. This is exactly why studying music theory still matters, even today. So, here's how I would revise it. I would first start with the cadence. I would choose to go through the circle of fifths. 4 major 9, flat 7 7 flat 9, flat 3 major 9, flat 6 7, flat 2 9, 5 7 flat 9, 1 major 9. Next, I'd make the 6 half diminished chord a minor 7 chord instead. Finally, I would change the order of the 1 major 7 sharp 11 and the 5 7 sus 4. This is what the corrected progression sounds like. In addition to harmony, AI struggles with rhythms, melodies, orchestration, and writing idiomatically for any instrument. It sometimes mislabels forms or loses track of what you've already told it. Basically, AI sounds confident like it knows what it is saying, so it is imperative that you know your stuff to catch when it's wrong. That's why it's dangerous to rely on AI to generate music without oversight. But that leads me to the next point perfectly. If you know how to use AI well, it can absolutely enhance your creative process. When I'm developing a new piece, I often use AI to brainstorm how I can expand on a concept. I might be working with a specific image I want to evoke, exploring a particular technique, or just trying to convey a story through sound. AI helps me organize my thoughts and sometimes suggests clever additions that help tie up loose ends. It even occasionally supports my research by giving me a starting point or ideas to fact check. Between you and me, both are faster than starting from scratch. It's like having a friend to talk through anything you want, anytime you want. One specific way I used AI was when I asked for compositions that use frequency modulation synthesis. ChatGPT gave me 5 compositions and 4 composers to check out. Of course, you can't take any of that at face value. So here's how it held up after just a few minutes of fact-checking. Stria by John Chowning turned out to be the original composition to demonstrate the musical potential of FM synthesis, a perfect starting point. Sued by Jean-Claude Risette was also easy to verify, but not as much is written about it. The other 3 were unfortunately not accurate, but they still led me in useful directions. James Dasho definitely used FM synthesis in a different piece, his opera Archimedes. However, I was unable to verify if FM synthesis was used in, at other times, The Distances. It's possible that FM plays a role, though it doesn't appear to be a central technique. Clarence Barlow's piece, Im Januar am Nil, uses formant synthesis, which is not FM synthesis. While Curtis Rhodes is one of the most important authors on computer music, I couldn't confirm whether FM synthesis was used specifically in his Point Line Cloud album. He employs a wide variety of synthesis techniques, so he probably used FM synthesis at some point in one or more of the compositions. Still, all the composers listed are excellent if you're studying electronic music. Even if not every piece used FM synthesis, ChatGPT provided a solid starting point for deeper research and listening. And it only took a few minutes of searching to verify the details. As for readings, ChatGPT recommended some excellent books that actually help you learn how to use FM synthesis in composition. The software tools it suggested were great as well. Here is my advice. Use AI to gather leads, not conclusions. It's useful for pointing you in the right direction, just be ready to fact check and refine. And if you're trying to learn a new technique, avoid relying too much on AI's advice section without additional research. Everything so far has led to this. Let me take you inside my current creative process and show how AI is actively helping me shape a commissioned composition. It's helped me with everything from generating ideas to adapting on the fly, and it's already speeding things up in ways I did not expect. I am currently working on a percussion ensemble piece for a high school. I knew I wanted to explore rhythm rotations and African bell patterns in the piece. I made an initial sketch that I thought showed promise, but I knew it wouldn't be enough to carry a full 5 to 7 minute composition. That's when I started thinking about how to expand the idea and turn it to ChatGPT. You have to be a little patient because you need to take time to explain your ideas clearly so that the AI of choice understands what you're doing. After 5 interactions, it offers some great suggestions, including percussion instruments I hadn't considered, like agogo bells and claves. It also reminded me to think about how high school players would engage with the piece. It suggested goals like building listening skills and dynamic control. That helped me start thinking more concretely about the ensemble's educational needs. Once I explained my initial sketch, I asked for ideas on how to expand it. This is where the AI really began to shine. It immediately gave me 6 different directions the piece could take. Each one was logical and easy to visualize musically. I decided to incorporate call and response because it felt like a perfect complement to the rhythmic rotation idea I was already exploring. It's also a fundamental structure in traditional African music, especially in drum circles and ensemble playing, where one rhythm is answered with a new pattern or echoed back with variations. That made it feel especially fitting for a piece rooted in African rhythmic concepts. As I discussed the order of the call and response section with ChatGPT, I realized that it would be compelling to begin with opposing rhythms, then transition to a texture where one rhythm is new while the other echoes the previous idea. That concept helped me flesh out an entire section of music. I decided to conclude the passage with each rhythm making its own call followed by a response where all three play together simultaneously. Originally, I planned to keep things simple. Each student would always play the same rhythm wherever it appeared, but the result felt flat and uninspired. I turned to ChatGPT for help. While it didn't give me a specific chart to solve the problem, it laid the groundwork for a more dynamic approach by suggesting ways to mix up the pairings. I built on that and created a balanced, more complex web of rhythm assignments. ChatGPT even double-checked my system and caught that student E had one extra appearance while student B had one too few. I fixed that by swapping one of E's entrances with B. That change solved the flatness issue completely. ChatGPT also helped shape the overall structure of the piece. Together, we planned a third main section introducing a new rhythm treated with the same techniques as the first section. This would lead into another call and response passage, followed by a final section that combines both rotation and call and response. As before, I mapped out the core ideas and worked through the details with ChatGPT. I plan to return to the AI to help refine and adapt the composition, especially if anything begins to feel stale or static. Here are my final thoughts on what I've learned. I experimented with Grok, Gemini, and ChatGPT. Grok was the least helpful for music-related tasks. It clearly leans more towards science and technical content, with limited training in the arts. Gemini was the best at delivering accurate facts. It's great for concrete information, though you'll still need a fact check, but less useful when I needed creative input or advice. ChatGPT loves to offer suggestions, even when I'm not asking for them. That can be a bit much at times, but it consistently gave me the strongest recommendations and helped me brainstorm effectively. In short, I'd recommend that you use Gemini for research and use ChatGPT for everything else. If you're curious about how AI tools can support your own creative work, I encourage you to try them out for yourself. Each one has its strengths and weaknesses, but when used thoughtfully, they can be powerful partners in the creative process. If you found this video helpful, consider giving it a like, subscribing to the channel, and sharing it with someone who might benefit from it. I post weekly videos about contemporary classical music, and I'd love to have you along for the journey. Thank you for watching.